How's it going, Kat?
Really good. Thanks, Dana, for having me on this session. And thanks, Dan, for doing a recap. I wasn't at AU and I'm sad because I did see there was some sort of therapy puppies or something
I
top
believe
left
that's
corner.
every AU. They have dogs. So next
Uh,
year they will probably have them as well. So hopefully you'll be able to join. I hopefully will be able to in Nashville.
Great. So I can start. So let me do the age-old sharing of the screen. And what we'll do today is I'll talk a little bit about Hypar. I'll do a video demo of a complete workflow, and then I'll also open it up to a live demo. So I caveat, I think good software should always stand the test of a live demo. So I really am a big fan of building in public. I'm a big fan in kind of showing all our cards. And so a caveat that this will be a live demo. So let's start first with a little bit of what we're doing. So I'll go ahead and share my desktop. Um, yeah, let's start. My name is Kat. I'm a product manager here at Hypar. Anthony is also on this call, and we're really happy to be here. So, a little bit about Hypar and our vision. We have the vision to deliver the world's building expertise available to everyone instantly. And that's a pretty lofty vision. So, when we go down to the specific use case and the specific problem we're trying to address, at least initially, at least today, is this idea of turning complex program requirements into accurate plans and doing that with precision, speed, and ease. And of course, I'm going to use a Lego analogy. I wouldn't be an architect if I didn't use some form of Lego analogy, but it really does hold truth. We have a number of users, a number of people we've spoken to over the past few years, hundreds, in fact, and they're trying to essentially do this sort of space planning activity. Space planning is sort of one of the early phase activities that one does. It's very common in healthcare. Of course, it's also very common in workplace and other sectors, labs, for example. And really, people want to be space planning quickly, efficiently, and they kind of want to use their cubes or the things they've made that are standard block sizes, things that have the specific areas. They want to use those really quickly and they want to use those as Legos, but often they're not able to do that. Often they resort to things like using Bluebeam, which is great to a certain degree, but then they have to redraw and it's also in 2D, so their clients can't really understand it. Then they use things like SketchUp, which doesn't really translate very well to Revit. And of course, they've created solutions in Revit. So we've seen a number of people create these jelly cubes. You may actually have created some of these jelly cubes, and they're fantastic, but they're also fiddly, and you're doing kind of the best you can with what you have. So we've started to develop a software and a solution to address this challenge with the engine that we built over the past 4 or 5 years. And so I want to talk a little bit and talk a story and kind of give a story about Yana, who is part of Slam. And so Yana is a healthcare planner. She's part of Slam's healthcare group. And one of the things that Slam gets are these very specific standards from clients. So they get very specific standards. They sometimes even get 3D models in Revit from clients that are very detailed. And so they want to be able to move those around with speed and ease to create these proposals because they're not getting paid that much to do this sort of proposal planning stuff right off the bat. So they want to be able to do that very quickly. In addition, some people don't go into Revit. Not everyone is well versed in Revit. So you have some of the more senior planners or some of the more junior planners really looking to find a solution that's maybe a little bit different than Revit. So first time she was playing with Revit, Hypar, she was blown away by the arsenal of tools. And she was really able to manipulate models very quickly before her eyes using her client standards. So using her content, using her furniture and equipment right in Hypar as the thing it is, and then exporting it back into Revit without missing a beat. So that's something that she found was very popular and very useful for her. And our second person, or second a company that we've worked with is a fellow named Alex from Revise. And Revise is a 5-person firm. And they are a small firm in Boston, and they're really trying to leverage their small team to create these office test fits. So in Yana's case, super standard, lots of complicated things. They created their own chiclets. They didn't really work that well. But in Alex's case, he's doing these quick office test fits, and he has to kind of give those test fits to a client in a matter of days. And a lot of the time, they're not paid that much or at all for these test fits because they're waiting for the client to sign a lease and so forth. So he was able to lay out 100,000 square feet across 3 floors in about an hour, which is incredibly fast. And Alex is like a very proficient Revit user. So the fact that he was able to do this right off the bat without that much training is really indicative of the sort of work we were doing. And it's a killer tool, and more people should use it. So not only is Alex able to use it, he's able to train people and his team to use it and really leverage it and start to scale up his team to create these very quick office test fit proposals. So that's a little bit about the use cases, and there are a number of people that are using Hypar. And the very first thing I want to kind of mention when it comes to Hypar is you can just start. I think there's kind of this belief that you should get training, or there's a belief that you should have someone set it up for you in IT. There's very little to set up. You can just start. You can just go on to hypar.io and just play around. You don't even need a program, although we do ingest programs, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But you can just start, and it's really straightforward. There's kind of a saying that some of the most powerful things or some of the most profound things start up looking like toys. And this is kind of where we're thinking about, where this is a very pared back, very simplified UI, but lurking behind that UI is just an engine that is incredibly powerful. So one of the things that we're trying to do is let people be able to just start. So by the time you open up Revit, you could already been planning in Hypar, and you could have already created a plan. So you'll see that we have our kind of different tools at the bottom toolbar, and you can just add a space. You can manipulate that space. You can change the square footage of that space. Obviously, this is in feet. You can do it in meters. You can add more spaces. You can snap to those spaces. You'll notice that we do a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to make all of this super seamless and easy to use. So we do have these snapping infrastructure. We do have some of this stuff. And when we say that this is all kind of automation, it's this sort of automation. It's automation that is less in your face and more kind of holding your hand. So you can see things like you can plan with blocks. You can plan with a grid. We've noticed that people in lab spaces love to do modular grid planning. So we added a grid. You can put in your PDF, you can put in an image, you can put in a DXF, and we're working on you being able to put in your own Revit models and just them. But that's really the gist of it. So behind all of this is just an incredible engine and kind of an infrastructure to be able to do all of this seamlessly. And one of the things we do that maybe Revit doesn't necessarily do, or not really that easily, is this idea of tracking your progress and tracking your program. So you have this task of turning this complex program into space, into jelly cubes. And of course, they don't have to be cubes, but you can add in your Excel program, and Hypar will take any type of Excel program. You don't have to fiddle with a specific template or format. It will start to ingest most programs. And what you're seeing me doing here is actually adding different properties that it perhaps didn't initially see. So everything in green is something that Hypar has already recognized as a piece of data that it wants to ingest. And of course, I'm adding cost per square foot, which is kind of a way you can, in real time, measure quickly what your cost per square foot could be. So I'll go ahead and import all of these. And what I'm creating here is actually a little bit of a birthing center. I am not a medical planner, so just caveat, my previous life has been on workplace and kind of R&D. So I've tried my best to lay out a medical center or a birthing center, but you'll notice that I'm adding kind of department and I'm adding program name. And you'll see as this goes through how this all is brought up into Hypar. And on the right side, you'll notice that we're starting to basically track what you have. And you can change your requirements, of course, on the fly, and you can do a bunch of things. And you can also change what you need. So now let's plan at multiple levels of detail. So one of the things that you can do, and one of the things we've heard a lot of our users ask for, is the ability to plan at the departmental level, but then actually go into that department and plan at the room level, the ability to hide, show furniture, the ability to basically switch between levels of detail. And so we were able to do that. And one of the things we can do here is I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and just kind of lay them out. I'll turn off the walls. They come out with walls, but you can easily turn those off. And I'll start to just lay out spaces and see what sort of adjacencies I want, what sort of spacing I want. Of course, this is kind of more greenfield, but you can always do that with an existing plan or with an existing context. I'll go ahead and add another NICU and start to do some of this work. And you'll notice there's a lot of affordances that we're allowing people to do, with whether that's constraining areas or letting folks edit their shapes really, really quickly, and do these sort of snapping exercises. We did a number of tests over the past year or so to basically make sure that this interface and this program is incredibly easy to use, but yet still super precise. So you'll notice me just kind of adjusting things as I go. And I might want to do this, which is essentially enable a diagram or more diagrammatic mode. Sometimes you don't want to show walls, or you don't even want to show the corners of things to your clients. So of course you can switch, and it's kind of that level of detail that I'm talking about. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I kind of always switch back. So, and now one of the things that I'm able to do is to bring in different pieces of room level program and room level requirements and put it into this department. So now the department acts as a container for all that information. And you can move the whole department, you can move the rooms within the department, you can copy them, you can flip them, you can do all this. I'm doing this in 2D, but of course you can do this in 3D. And you know, a lot of these things I'm kind of showing as hand wavy, but some of this stuff is really quite tough to do. Like, you know, making sure that all the rooms adjust correctly with the spacing on the walls when you change it all in one go. All of that stuff is actually really, really tough to do in other programs. And there's a level of finickiness and fiddliness that Hypar just doesn't have. So that's kind of a cool challenge that we had to work with, is how do we create something that is super easy to use and can be used quickly and kind of a little bit like messily without losing that level of precision. So there's quite a bit of work that went into snaps and quite a bit of work to get it to this level. And it's hard to see this in a demo. Really, it's best to see it just using the software. And you'll notice that one of the key indicators, and one of the things we really pride ourselves on is, does the user have a joyful experience? Is the user happy? Is this user enjoying the thing they're doing? Because a lot of time we get these conversations with users where they go into architecture, they go into design, and then they're stuck using these tools that are kind of like soul sucking in many ways. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to make those tools less bad. So you'll notice that I'm doing some of this work. And of course, it's tracking. So right now, your patient room is 180 over 180. So I haven't changed the dimensions of it. But you'll notice that sometimes I might change dimensions and really want to show the user like quickly how you're changing those. So let me go ahead and start to change the dimensions of this nurse station. And you'll notice that the actuals are different than the program, and you get that kind of quick feedback really fast, and you're able to make decisions really quickly. You're able to show your colleagues really quickly. You're even able to show your clients. So that's kind of the gist of it. And of course, you can always go back to diagram mode. We actually have seen people use diagram mode while they're planning, which is really interesting. Now, one of the things we've just recently announced, and this was actually just yesterday, is that our interoperability with Revit. So before, you could bring in your model from Hypar into Revit, including walls and rooms, and so you wouldn't have to build something from scratch. And now you're able to actually bring in your furniture, your equipment, and your rooms into Hypar. And what I'm doing here is just grabbing something from Herman Miller. I did not even clean this model up. And let me tell you, there is some very messy stuff from Herman Miller. This one is probably on the better end. And all I did here is just add a room to enclose it. You don't need to add a room, but you can, and it helps. And I'll show you kind of a bit of things we're doing there. So all I did is add a room. I'm going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to go ahead and do an add-in and send selection to Hypar. You can get our add-in. It's free. You can try Hypar. It's free. And so I am obviously speeding this up because I don't want you to sit with me for like 4 or 5 minutes, but I'm not speeding it up as much as you think I am. So you'll see that we're ingesting everything from Revit. We're making it really lightweight. We're making it really easy to manipulate. And we're also retaining all that information. So when you bring it back inevitably into Revit, it will be the same thing you brought in. So no changes there. So we'll go ahead, send to Hypar, no errors, which is great. And then on the top banner, you just click place, and there you go. So all your stuff in Hypar, whatever you need. And all that stuff is manipulable and also intelligent. So we bring in things if it's wall hosted or kind of if it's close to the wall, it becomes wall hosted. So you don't have to fiddle with any kind of anchoring, or we're not allowed to say the word anchoring because it's very jargony, but you don't have to fiddle with anchoring. And it just brings in stuff from Revit and it makes it smarter. So that's kind of the gist of it. And of course, you can manipulate and move things. You can move that stuff outside of the room. You can rotate it. You can copy layouts. You could add more stuff from our own library of stuff that we've given you. So I'm adding a chair here. And you'll notice that, I don't know, it goes really quickly and sometimes it's almost like kind of in the background, but you'll notice that there's these pink snaps that really make all the experience a lot better. And so I'm going ahead and copying the layout to another room that's slightly different. And then we'll talk a little bit about real-time analytics. And this is something that we're really working on right now, is how do we make sure that we give the right analytics to people at the right time, and then analytics at the right industry, and making sure that you have all the data you need to make really good decisions. And so you can see that we're starting to pull in this sort of use case. So I've moved away from my birthing center, and now I'm in somewhere where I have a little bit more familiarity, which is the sample workplace. And you'll notice that I am looking at gross floor area, net area, building gross up factor, or kind of this number for efficiency. And as I select different things, you'll notice that I'm looking at data. So the number of desks is a big one for test fits, of course, and all the things that kind of come with it. So we're still working on that just to see, what else we can bring and how we can visualize that a little bit better. And the last bit is kind of sharing how you want to share. Of course, we'd love for you to share live. It is fully collaborative. It is on the cloud. Multiple people can work at it at any given time. Um, However, sometimes we've learned from you that you want to be able to be a little bit more targeted in your presentation, especially to certain clients. And so we want to be able to let you share however you'd like. And in this case, I'm sharing it with this sort of diagram mode. I'm going to go ahead and export it to PDF. You have a little bit of title blocks. You have a scale, kind of all your table stakes stuff that you're expecting it to do. It does. And of course, you have all your tags. So we do this very sophisticated thing in the design part of our app where we bring the labels in and out depending on the zoom and bring kind of, and that helps a lot with design because sometimes you just don't need to see that information. But in a PDF, of course, you want to see all your labels in one place. So we let you do that. And you can go ahead and export a PDF and share that way. You can also share with you can also share by doing different things. So you can, if I go back to that, I'll just kind of quickly do that. Is you'll notice that you can go through walk through, and you'll notice that you can go through basically turning different things on and off. So you can turn off all the furniture. You can now go into walkthrough, and that gives you a good sense of like, we've heard from many clients, especially in healthcare, that they have doctors and nurses that sign off on some of these spaces. And it's only until they see the thing in 3D that they really understand what they're seeing. And so there's this, there's a lot of really good space planning apps that are in 2D that are really great. However, for certain clients, you have to see the thing in 3D. So this is one of the ways you enable people to see these complex spatial relationships really quickly in right in the app. You don't have to go anywhere else. And so, of course, you can put things as editor, viewer. You can invite different people into your software. But wait, where's the AI? So, of course, this presentation was about AI. So I'm going to now move towards the live portion. Please bear with me. This one is going to be a little bit more live. And so we're starting to work on a thing called suggestions. You may have remembered us from these videos, the provocative text to BIM video that we brought in, where we basically hooked up the prompt kind of LLM or natural language like kind of interface to Hypar, and that allowed that interface to call different functions within Hypar and bring in a whole model. And of course, that got a lot of publicity. It was very much a demo. But I think as we started to think about AI and generative AI and all the kind of buzzword terms, I'm starting to forget what some of these are, but we started to think about, well, I think people would really want to work and interact not with prompts, not with sliders, but with the model itself. And so what I'm showing here is let's go into our live demo. And so this is the workplace, and I have to caveat that it may not work, but let's go ahead and actually start to build out some of this. So some of this open collaboration and let's say copy resource, let's do open collaboration. So you'll notice that I can pull up open collaboration, and you'll notice that there's no furniture anywhere in the different in this open collaboration. But you'll notice something that happens on the side here, which is essentially our suggestions. And we're starting this and we're building this out, and suggestions will prioritize your preferences. They'll be ranked. And right now, those suggestions are very much suggestions for furniture. But in the future,
And
those
I'll
can be other
say
things.
what I have seen just in the last 5 months since I spoke with Ian, you guys have done so much, so many changes. And I know you guys have so much to share regarding Hypar. Unfortunately, we have to jump over to Aaron. We do have, not unfortunately, but we have to cut you off. I'm very excited for the presentation Aaron has, of course.
Great.
People are
Well,
so
more
excited,
later.
Kat, that we do have a bunch of questions. So if we do have some extra time at the end, we can of course get to those live. I've tried to add some comments to them so far, but we'll go ahead and jump over to Aaron. How are you doing, Aaron?
Good. And yeah, sorry, Kat. I was actually very engaged. It's really beautifully executed. So
And I
I'm
know,
sorry that we
Kat,
couldn't
you
go
could
through the full
probably go
demo.
on for another 20 minutes because there's so much Hypar has to offer. So
Just leaving you
absolutely.
on a cliffhanger. Just going to leave it on a cliffhanger.
Exactly. You got it.